Welcome to the Link Building Show, episode 33. I've got Charlie here, one of our new team members. He joined a few months ago. And I think Charlie will ask me a few questions, which I'm not aware of what questions they will be. So, Charlie, welcome to the Link Building Show. Have you been in the Link Building Show before?
Hi, Fery. No, thanks for having me. It's my first time.
Awesome.
So first off, I just wanted to find out. So when you've got you think you've got a great idea on the go, and you're ready to sort of make sure it's validated. What are the most effective ways that you go about validating an idea to ensure that it's valid research?
The first step that I would do is I would go and check out the target publications and see if they consistently talk about that subject or that topic. If they have never talked about it in the past 2 years, it means you might not have a good idea. So the first thing to do is indeed go and see if journalists are actually talking about the subject. If they are, and if they're consistently talking, even if it's topic closely related to that, and you think your idea could add a little, salt and pepper to their usual stories, that's also a very good indication that your campaign might be useful for the journalists.
Okay, great. And so I guess there's kind of like a balance, isn't there, between coming up with a novel idea and trying to follow the trend and seeing what has already been done before. So do you have any ways that you do that, or is it just on gut feeling?
I think it's got to be a gut feeling. There might be a really good idea that is very novel, right? It's very unique, and you might have great success with it. But it can also be like the idea is so good, so exciting, but like nobody cares about it, and that's really can destroy your self-esteem even. Like, why do they not care about this great? Like we've had some great ideas. We even invested big resources, software development and design resources, and nothing happened when we pitched it to like even hundreds of journalists, and nobody cared. So but it can happen, and that's normal. So if you ever have that, or if anyone will ever have that is a normal thing to have. So I would always have like a contingency idea as well when you have this great idea, great unique idea. Apart from that, I would also have some backup ideas that just in case that other idea will not work, the backup idea should be based on something that journalists are covering all the time. There's like seasonality, there is like previous trends that journalists covered, and I would use that as a backup.
Okay, great. So kind of have a balance between like maybe a big risk idea that could be a really big hit, or it could be a big miss, and then having some safer, more tried and tested options as like a backup.
Indeed. Always have a backup to a novel idea, always.
Okay, great. No, thank you for that. And so moving on, when you've got your idea sorted, you've got the press release ready, and you're ready to distribute, what strategy do you take with that? How do you ensure that you build a list that covers all the relevant sectors so that you don't miss anything out?
Well, for this purpose, you can use media databases, of course, as we do. We use Roxhill, Muckrack, and some of the team members maybe even use Cision. We are using all of them. We have paid subscription to all of them, and there are some really advanced filters in there that you can use. For example, if you want to target, you have a story based on stock trading. You can target, you can use the filters to use journalists from the categories of financial trading or trading, but then you can also use keywords to find some extra relevant journalists, such as you can use filters that will say, give me the journalists who have talked about Twitter stock in the past 30 days or in the past 2 months. And then you can add the or operator, Tesla stock or Facebook stock, or like list, the S&P top, like the top 10 from the S&P 500 over like whatever top 20, and then add that as a search operator, and then you can get lots of relevant journalists who always talk about trading. And you can apply this same method to some other niches as well. Just be, we have to be very almost like common sense-y when you are searching for journalists, and even for online publications and outlets. I would always double check manually. Don't just rely on the list. Just go through the list a little bit and make sure you're not Because you might have like defense editor who talks about in one of their stories they mentioned Twitter stock, and then you might send him like Netflix stock story, and he was like, I'm talking about wars and whatever. This is not my niche. Why are you sending me this? So I would always kind of double check. It's not a bad thing if you send once or twice by mistake, but if it's good not to do it all the time, because they will mark your email as a spam.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you. And so obviously, when it comes down to building lists and doing your research and stuff, some of the processes can be really time consuming, especially things like quality checking lists and validating research, all those extra things that take time that you don't necessarily account for. So do you have any particular exercises that you do to save time, but in a way that you don't sacrifice the quality of your work?
Perhaps you can set up preset lists, like you can preset lists that are for your typical clients. Let's say you have this client for like 2 months, or you generally have a client or have many clients. We have many clients who are in a certain niche. Then we can set up like pre-made lists for that specific sector. Or we have lots of clients who we do regional stories, and you can have pre-made lists of regional journalists for every area, and then you can just leverage that over and over again. Just resend to that list every time you have a regional story, or resend to a Netflix story when Netflix list when you have like a Netflix or trading story or so on. So I think you can be very clever in the way you organize your lists and just prepare them for the future. Make sure as much as possible, it's not always possible, but make sure you actually set yourself up for minimal work in the future with pre-made lists for various industries.
Yes, yeah, no, I agree. I find that, well, from the time that I've been here and working in digital PR, that the preset lists definitely do come in handy. The preset list we have of like all the news desks and particular journalists around a particular topic that they cover. Yeah, it does save a hell of a lot of time. But of course, then there's also that challenge of what if there's someone in there that shouldn't be in that list? Maybe they've got a little accident.
That happens, and it's okay. It's fine. If that happens every now and then, it's okay.
Yeah, but obviously always great to have those lists at hand, in case you have like a quick reactive that you need to send out, that, you need to just get the press release written, make sure it's all good to go, and then put a pre-made list in there so that you don't have to spend, hours on distribution when that could have already gone out to those journalists.
100%.
Okay, great. And I wanted to learn a bit more about your personal experience. So from your time in digital PR and working around SEO, what have your previous campaigns taught you? Are there any essential tips that you would give to someone new starting based on what you've learned?
I think the biggest lesson that everyone should take on board is it is eventually like once you get to a certain level of quality, it becomes a numbers game. It becomes like digital PR becomes a numbers game. The way you pitch it, the aggressiveness of the pitch, send it out once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times, re-angle, just relentlessness, and it is the key determining factor after you have got to a certain level of quality, right? Initially, you have to play the quality, like really become a good writer, make sure you elaborate, you have to become good at ideation and so on. But after you get to a certain level with that, just becoming a better writer or a better ideas person or better data person will not be as helpful as becoming a more relentless person. When you become a relentless, digital PR, that's when you will hit big numbers in links. That's the most important thing that I would always, recommend as the first thing. Be relentless when you get to a certain level in terms of quality. And apart from that, always watch the news, always be on the case, because that's what's going to help you, to react, reactive ones again, push for reactive ones, push for short stories, short research that require very little input, because that's when you're going to be able to play the volumes game, and that's when you're going to be winning big time.
Okay, great. So is it something again like a gut feeling when you know you've reached that level of you've got the quality there so that you can be more relentless and focus less on learning the ins and outs or the particular details if you've got it down? Is it more like once you see the results from your campaigns as consistent, that's when you know you can push a bit more
Yes,
on speed rather than quality because the
100%. Exactly. So once you get to a level where most of your campaigns are like starting to hit some coverage, and then you got to a place where your ideas are good, your data is good, and your writing is good enough, and then of course your way of pitching is good enough, then you can say, okay, I'm going to put all the focus into how can I do 10 angles of this story, how can I launch more stories in a day or in a week, and that's right. When you feel you are consistent, then you can start being relentless.
Okay, great. Thank you, Fery. And just also my last couple questions. Where do you see the industry moving forward next? What do you see changing? Maybe for the better or maybe for the worse. Where do you see the industry going next in the next few years?
The industry is definitely going up. As we know, blogger outreach is still a massive business, and blogger outreach is when people actually pay for the links, and that's still a business that's thriving. I can see companies going in 2 years to like £10 million a year business just with blogger outreach. So even that industry is still in boom mode. Digital PR is even better. It's hard to build links, and companies who will innovate and who will manage to have processes and systems in place that will allow them to keep on building links, those are the companies that are going to succeed. The industry is booming. There's billions of pounds being poured into PR and digital PR, and it's only going to go up, and it's only going to be better, and the money in this industry is only going to grow. And that's both for employees and for companies as well. The opportunities are, what we have now is just the beginning. I think probably in 3 years' time, the industry will be mature enough. But even so, there's always going to be newcomers. There's always going to be companies who are going to innovate in terms of like their approach or their processes and the way they build the links. And there's always going to be place for innovation in this sector. What I can see is like reactive took the place of the big hero campaigns. So about 2 years ago, the digital PR was, let's do an infographic and let's do some charts and let's do some, pages on a website and pitch that. Now the industry has shifted to reactives, and as we know, with reactives we land way more links than with these asset pages, which take a lot of time. They're super high risk, and more often than not they will not get us consistent links. So reactive is like the cool kid at the moment, and I think it's gonna keep on being that for the foreseeable future. And also like expert commentary, that's also expanding. Like expert commentary, that's becoming more and more powerful tool. But yeah, there's gonna be probably way bigger innovations in the foreseeable future, and hopefully it's going to be us who are going to keep on innovating and building new systems, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think is the catalyst for that change, that shift from the growth of the industry, but also that shift from like you say, going from like infographics and those particular details to more reactive campaigns? What has been the cause of that?
I think people realize that you can land more links with reactives than with a long hero campaign. So a reactive one, even though it takes like 1 hour or 2 sometimes, or 3 hours to execute, sometimes you might have to do more of those, but still it's way more efficient than just building big asset pages and then getting links to them. I think they are still going to be there, like those are not going away. The asset, the on-page asset page based PR campaigns, they're still great, but you cannot get the link velocity that you can get with the digital PR, and that's why that you can get with the reactive ones. And that's why people said, okay, like why not just use reactive ones and then we can get more links to our clients, more impactful links. And I think that's what triggered, consistency, because you can have consistency with these.
And do you think that has what has contributed to the growth of the industry, is that shift to reactive?
Yeah, well, I think the growth of the industry as a whole, as a digital PR, kind of developed because journalists realized that they can have, great content, great insights that they would not have otherwise. Therefore, they are willing to, cover the PR stories. And the industry realized, like the PR industry also realized, that the better the quality of their, insights, the more likely they're going to get coverage, and the journalists want to cover it and get them links. So it's been one hand washes the other one. Everyone helps each other, and then the industry is flourishing, because ultimately the clients will get great links. And that's like, we realize that we can build links in other ways than just paying for links. We can actually build links with great content, with great insights, and by presenting us as the experts in the industry.
So my final question for you, Fery, was, what do you think that the PR industry could do better?
Well, I think there is a lack of tools in this industry, and there's a lack of integrated platforms that help PRs become better at research, better at pitching, and better at doing their job, like being scalable. So I think the PR industry needs online tools that help both, the journalists and the PRs to work together in a more streamlined way. What we see now is it's a very, very basic set of processes that every PR agency is using to, find the stories, find the data, put it in, find the journalists from various databases, then do whatever, like export them, put them in their own systems. It's a big spaghetti of tools that people are using. There is no proper tools in this industry that help, the industry become better at collaborating together, like bringing journalists and PRs together. And I think this is the next big thing in the industry. Somebody, not sure, maybe us, somebody will come up with a system that will make, the collaboration between the two sides better, like a better quality, have less, spam, because we know there's lots of spam in this industry. But I think that's what it can do better, like make journalists and PRs work together in a more streamlined and effortless way.
So do you mean, like, instead of say coming up with an idea that you think might be relevant for a journalist, or you think might land, it would be more collaborating with journalists before, in the ideation stage almost, or
something like that. Like, we don't even have a basic platform where journalists go and ask for. I know we have we have Haro and we have journal requests on Twitter. That's not a proper intelligent tool. There's no intelligent tools that bring these together.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Those are the questions I had for you. Really appreciate that. It's really interesting to hear.
Good questions, Charlie. Very good questions, and really good chat, actually. Every time I talk about this, I kind of have, spontaneously the ideas, and I think that's a good tool that we should actually build. Let me talk to my devs now. I'm going to go upstairs and talk to the dev. Like, I've got an idea from this meeting. Let's build a tool.
That's brilliant.
Awesome.
No, it's really, really great to be a part of it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope this discussion was interesting enough, and hopefully see you on the next episode.